Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my podcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played, of course, for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. He played with the Kings when Wayne Gretzky was there. And, of course, you know him from the Survivor Series as well. And now he is a man who pontificates a little bit on the sport of hockey, and we do that.
I pontificate? Is that what I do?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
On the sport of hockey, we do it twice a week, and this is our second show of the week, and I think both Tom and I are anxious to start talking about competition, which really isn't that far off now, Tom. If we're getting into late July, we're into June now. So next month, we can say, we're going to be watching hockey. We're going to be breaking down series. We're going to do a little bit of that today. But first, I wanted to start off, Tom, to get your thoughts on yesterday, Sidney Crosby came out with a statement, and what was interesting about it, of course, is that Evander Kane had made reference to the fact that he thought it was time for all athletes to, kind of take a stand against racism. And of course, hockey has really gone out of its way in recent years to make sure that everyone's aware that they believe that there is a sport for everyone. And even though there are not a lot of black athletes in the sport, it's a growing number, and I think they would love to see more. They've worked real hard to try to cultivate, more black participation. But I thought it was interesting, and what I really liked about Sid's statement was he said what he's going to do is he wants to listen, and I think that's sort of a theme that we're starting to hear now. There are a lot of people who are just starting to realize that maybe we don't have we being the people of the United States, a real handle on how great the problem is.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows that racism is a prevailing problem, but I think not everyone understands how it manifests out in the community and how difficult it is for African Americans to deal with the police sometimes with regard to, just traffic stops or just normal interaction. So first of all, your thoughts on Sid Crosby's statement and it looks like the increasing number of athletes. Shea Weber came out with something on Brendan Gallagher as well. We're starting to see more and more of that.
Yeah, we talked about it last time. I think that athletes, have that, whether they deserve it or not, they have that voice that people listen to, right? And I think I especially like it when somebody comes up with answers, right? Instead of just saying this is terrible, it shouldn't happen. Like Sid, saying, okay, I need to listen, right? Acknowledging that and I guess I should do that as well. For me to say that I understand what it is to be a black person, to get pulled over in the car or whatever it is, it's just, I don't, so I like, that's part of what, and you and I were discussing this before we got going. I'm like, what is the solution? Like, I feel like I see the problem. I know a lot of police officers, and I think there's some fantastic people. Obviously, there's a problem there, though. With all this going on. So what is the solution? You can't, the police officers are also the same people when we call 911 that come to, save our lives or, do whatever they can for us. So, we can't just say, okay, it's all the police's fault. It's like, okay, what is the solution? And I like Sid saying, listen, I need to listen. I need to know what's going on. We're probably all just so naive. This is just the way things have been. So let's just continue on with our lives. Let's find out what the problem is and help people instead of, and that's the thing. We need to help each other more, right? I mean, just in everyday life, the way we drive our cars, the way we treat each other in stores, and during this whole pandemic, and I was at the car wash the other day, and this woman, everybody else has got all the workers have got their masks on. I've got a mask on. Everybody else that's there has got a mask on. This one woman just standing there with no mask on, and I felt like I wanted to say something to her, but I'm not going to get into a confrontation with this woman. But it's just the way we treat each other. We need to just have more respect for each other in general too. But I'm not saying that's the whole solution, but that would help.
I wonder if and I know he was made fun of because of it, but remember when George Bush said we need a kinder, gentler America? Well, actually, we do. Sure we do need that, a kinder, gentler America, and some of it is, and I think the word naive that you use is very appropriate. Today in some of the sports news, Sacramento Kings NBA team's radio announcer Grant Napier lost his job over Twitter comments he made to a player, DeMarcus Cousins, who asked him what he thought of the Black Lives Matter movement, and he simply wrote back, "All lives matter." And I know that there are people out there who wonder what that was all about. Well,
Yeah.
the issue on that is if all lives matter, well, that's a truism, for sure. But if you just say that, what you're essentially saying is that we don't really need Black Lives Matter, because there must not be a problem, that we should just respect everyone. But it's not as simple as that, and it's almost like a naive approach to it all, that this will all kind of sort itself out, and obviously it won't. This has been going on forever and a day, and I think you're also right on when you say there's no simple solution, because if there was, we'd have done it by now.
Yeah.
But these kinds of issues have a way of pushing things to the forefront, and sometimes out of it comes a solution. So already we're seeing an investigation in Minneapolis to see what's going to happen there, and there's no question that this death has enhanced visibility about it all. And I think athletes are playing. It's in the grand scheme of things, it's a small role, but I think by keeping it out there and showing support, it's certainly a good thing. So,
definitely. Yep, I agree totally.
All right, let's move on from that a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about hockey just in general. Let's start looking at some of the series more. And I was looking at it and I thought, boy, what series am I interested in? You and I have talked a lot about the Rangers series with Carolina, because we have, you have the ties to the Rangers. You also have the ties to Donnie Waddell, who was your college teammate in Northern Michigan. I know Don Waddell very well as well. But if I'm looking at series that I think will just be fun hockey,
yep.
I think a fun series is going to be Calgary versus Winnipeg.
Yes.
And one of the reasons I think that is look at the difference between these two teams. The Flames are 36, 27, and 7. The Jets are 37, 28, and 6. The Jets have scored six more goals than the Flames. Yep. And the goals against average, the Jets have given up 203 goals, and the Flames have given up 215. Very similar. Power play, 21.2 for the Flames percentage, and 20.5. One of the big differences, though, and I think to me this is where why I like the Jets in this series is their penalty killing. The Jets are struggling a little bit, but I think they have the best goaltender by far, in Connor Hellebuyck, and I think that's where they have the difference. And the Flames have a much better penalty killing, which I think is important in a playoff series. But their goaltending is just like, I don't know. I just don't believe in it. Do you believe in their goaltending?
No, I don't like Calgary's goaltending. I really like I think I agree with you. It's going to be good hockey, but I think that Winnipeg's going to win this, and I think kind of a short series. A lot of people, the negative that people talk about with the Winnipeg Jets is their defense. They lost Bufflin, they lost Trouba, they lost Myers off to Vancouver there. But I don't look at it that way. To me, like sometimes we've talked this before. I think when you almost have too much talent at one position, it's like everybody just says, well, they'll do it. Bufflin will do it. Trouba will do it. I think we've talked this before with Pittsburgh too, when they won the first of their last two Stanley Cups. I think all of us were saying they just didn't have good enough defense. Well, they end up playing better team game, because I think they say to themselves, okay, we're not going to criticize their defense, but they're not as experienced as maybe other teams. So we need to play a better team game, and combine that with the goaltending of Hellebuyck. I agree with you. I think Winnipeg, I just think Winnipeg's a better team, a better defensive team than Calgary. Calgary's like missing something too. And I've talked about this before, and I feel bad saying it, but if I'm running the Calgary team, you see Gerard Gallant, they're still available, who I think is arguably the best coach, one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. He's not there right now, and they haven't got him. So I just don't see Calgary being able to pull it together as a team against the Jets. Yeah,
and on their defense, I think Josh Morrissey has kind of stepped up.
Yep.
They were kind of expecting that. They brought him along slowly.
Yep.
And then when he got the opportunity, I think he's improved every game he's been in the league as well. So I really like, both these teams have some firepower.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. It's funny. We talk a lot about Scheifele and Patrick Laine on the Jets team. And of course, Blake Wheeler has been a quality player for a long time, but I think their dangerous player might be Kevin Connor.
Yes. Yep.
He scored 38 goals, and he just seems to always be around the net and always be in a position. And
a lot of people think too that I agree that if they had to pick between Line A and him, that they wouldn't go with Line A. He's not the best player there out of those two players. Right now.
I know, and he gets much more notoriety than. And boy, he's been good, right from the first day he was in the league. Now he's not a perfect player by any stretch of the imagination, but he certainly gets the job done. And I think as much as I appreciate Johnny Gaudreau, I think there's a sense there that he's still a dangerous hockey player, but he doesn't seem quite as dangerous as he was.
He had an off year. Yeah, he didn't play well at all. And neither did the other Monahan there too. Neither one of those guys, I think, had a very good year. They kind of took a step back there a little bit. I think they were playing a little bit better before they shut down the season. But yeah, that's the thing. Now, the other thing that we forget about is the Tkachuk factor there too, right? I mean, the fiery Tkachuk there. Does he get them fired up and pull his team into the fight? Because that's my concern. I don't see the fight from the Calgary Flames. And somebody else was talking about that. One of the Calgary people that covers the Calgary team was saying that as well. I can't remember who it was, but you just don't see the fight in them. With the Winnipeg, I see more of that grit, more of that determination to play a better game. And Paul Maurice is a good coach too. He seems to get a lot out of his team. So, I think it'll be good hockey, but I could see it being done in 3 games, really.
Do you think Kevin Cheveldayoff's on the hot seat here?
Well, okay, so you lose Byfuglien. You really can't blame him for that, right? They let Tyler Myers go. I mean, was he just not fitting into their cap? He wanted too much money. They did trade Trouba away, which I really like a Trouba. To me, Trouba's the same kind of guy as it's awful. The guy that was in Winnipeg, the defenseman was in Winnipeg and Washington when they won the Cup. I liked him so much, but he's that kind of guy that come playoff time, he's that big, heavy body. He can move the puck well. I wouldn't think that he's in trouble. I like their lineup. I think they've got a lot of good players there. I mean, obviously, if they don't start winning and start doing something, then yes, sooner or later, the finger gets pointed at the general manager. But I like what they've done there. I don't think he's on the hot seat. You?
The question about losing Myers and Trouba, is that really his fault? It's fascinating with GMs, and I know Dale Talon has brought this up as well. If you do what you need to do to sign a player, you're criticized for overpaying.
Yes.
And he's in Florida, but if you don't sign a player, then you're criticized for letting him go.
Yep.
So what you're saying is you've got to sign him for what everyone thinks is a fair contract. The problem is to keep that player, he wants more than fair to stay in your market. If you're in Florida or you're in Winnipeg, Trouba, I don't think the question was money. I mean, it was money. I mean, you could have kept him if you overpaid him. But I think he was just ready to move on. He wanted to go elsewhere.
Wasn't some situation with his wife that they wanted to be back in New York too? That she's in some entertainment business or something. They want to be in New York. Yeah. So
I mean, he wanted to be back in the States, for sure. So, I don't think you can hold him accountable for that unless you're willing to overpay him. And I don't think the Jets were willing to do that. And to be honest with you, in Trouba's case, it probably wouldn't have mattered.
Right. I agree with you on the money issue, like with Myers, for example. So when you've got him on your team, part of the issue is you see all the warts in his game, right? There's nobody that's perfect out there. I like Myers a lot. I think he's that big bodied guy. I think you win with those kind of players. But you're right. If he's wanting, let's say he thinks he can get $7 million. I can't remember what he got from Vancouver, but let's say he's getting $7 million a year or whatever, and you think he's really a $5 million a year player. Yeah, if you do, you're right. If you sign him for $7 million, then you're I overpaid for this guy. But that's part of for a new team to get him, that's almost part of the acquisition cost to get the player, right? You think he's really a $5 million guy, but I got to give him $7 because that extra $2 is the acquisition cost to get him. But so, yeah, I think you're right. I like Cheveldayoff. I like what he's done with that team. And I like Paul Maurice as a coach is a great choice. So I think I wouldn't be worried if I was him.
Well, that's an interesting concept. I mean, and that is commonplace in the business world outside of sports. They pay a bounty to get teachers to come to certain areas, rural areas or areas where, it may not be conducive to a young teacher's lifestyle. So, they'll give you a $10,000 bonus, or hospitals sometimes pass out bonuses to get nurses because they're short on nurses, and if you have a particular skill, or they cut a deal. So why don't we look at it that way? You can pay a bonus to, you get someone to come to a place they don't necessarily want to come to.
Sure. It used to be that. I mean, the signing bonus used to be designed just as an acquisition cost to get the player to come. Now it's used for different reasons, sometimes tax.
Well, it's used to beat the salary cap. Let's face it. Yeah, we try to, do it that way. And that every time we, alter the CBA, we still find a different way to utilize it. So, it makes, makes sense to do that. But let's, and getting back to Cheveldayoff, I don't think he's in trouble. I think ownership there views him pretty much the same way as when, he first showed up. I think they think he's a real smart guy that knows how to build a team, but only one team can win every year. And I think they like what he's done. They look at their lineup. They're an exciting team. I think everybody likes Winnipeg's talent level. They just haven't been able, through weird sets of circumstances, to make that next leap. And it looked like they were going in that direction, and then their defense fell apart for reasons that we just sort of identified. So I agree with you. I don't think Kevin Cheveldayoff is in any trouble, but I do want to sort of talk about some guys that may be on the hot seat. We have obviously some interim tags, and the first guy I want to talk about is Dean Evason, who is the interim coach in Minnesota. And here's my take on that. Tom, I think he came in and he showed, not by changing their style necessarily, I think he showed them how their skill level and their talent should allow them to win if they utilize it in this way. Yeah. And I think he is allowing them to take more chances. I think they're much more offensive than they've been and they were in previous coaches. I think they're pushing up more. They're more aggressive moving forward. And I think for that reason, win, lose, or draw in this play-in round, I think he's going to be their coach. I think Bill Guerin likes the fact that he quickly identified that this team didn't know how to utilize their talents to win. And instead of just trying to change them, he tried to explain to them, what they were doing and why they weren't winning. And I think it worked.
Yeah, I agree totally. And I think you're right. You have to look at the general manager too, right? When you're trying to evaluate the coach. So what is Bill Guerin? He comes from the Pittsburgh organization. So I'm assuming he's going to say, well, I'm not going to just model my team after the Pittsburgh. I don't have Sidney Crosby. I don't have Malkin, all those guys. But I think what he likes is like those, bring in those young kids, the up-tempo game. And I think you're right with Evason. And that's the thing when I watched Minnesota before. I was like, there's something missing there. It's almost felt like, is there something missing in the locker room? These guys don't want to play. Are they uptight or whatever it is? So I think, you need to have somebody in there that, pushes them to another level. I mean, that's, we talked about it, I can't remember, it was yesterday on your show with Bob Duff the other day, we talked about how, Carolina with Rod Brindamore, he pushes them to another level. Quinn here in New York, he pushes them to another level. And I think you're right. That's what Evason has done there in Minnesota, because that team is way better than I think than they're playing. And it's tough too. They've got, Parisi's a heck of a hockey player, but that's that long contract that he and Suter signed there. I mean, now you're kind of saddled with those two guys. I'm not saying they want to get rid of those guys, but I mean, you can't really move those guys now too. So if you want to move forward, sometimes you want to do that retool, get rid of the higher price contracts from older guys that kind of stuck there with that. So yeah, they've got to work with what they have with those guys and get the most out of it. I'm with you. I was wondering, like, who would Guerin be tied to, that's out there as a coach that would be better than Evason, right? I don't know if there's anybody out there that would be better. I mean, obviously I'm a Hugh Gallant fan, but I don't see, maybe Guerin. I that's why I kind of thought that in Detroit, that Steve Yzerman would be more leaning towards a Gerard Gallant because of their history there. But he's come out publicly and said that the coach is fine there now, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting, he had said that Yzerman had earlier in the season. Yzerman actually doesn't do a lot of interviews during the course of the season. And, but he had said that he thought Blashill, that he goes to every practice and he thought Blashill was on top of things. And to be honest, like, I think Yzerman is a fair man, and, he didn't give him a team that was really competitive, especially on the back end. And
I think Yzerman was fine with that. Like, he could have plugged some holes and made it more competitive, but I think he just felt they would be better off if they gave their younger defensemen some experience and let them play and let them grow and let them make mistakes. And so for that reason, I think he thought, well, the record is not how we judge Blashill. We judge him on did he make the younger players better? And I think Yzerman believed he did.
And the thing is, Detroit too, with Yzerman there. I mean, because he's Steve Yzerman and his history with the Red Wings, he's going to have a lot more leeway with the fans and the media than somebody else would. And plus, they can always spin it. And I'm a huge fan of, I can't remember his name now, Kenny Holland fan that was there previously. But they can spin it that he didn't leave Steve Yzerman a very good team, right? That's always so. Because Steve, I think, has more leeway there for a while, he can have more leeway with the coach as well. There's as much pressure to make a change just for the sake of making a change too. So, but Gerard is there, Steve. Gerard Gallant is sitting there, your old line mate. Put the Vegas Golden Knights to the Stanley Cup Finals in the first year. I will still never understand, and I don't know. I will never understand why Vegas fired him, especially when they fired him. Like, it wasn't like the team was falling apart. Here's a coach that had done the things he's done. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. I just thought he got more out of those players in that first year for the Vegas Golden Knights than I've seen any coach ever get out of any team. It's amazing watching that.
Well, are you a conspiracy theorist? I'm sure there's some conspiracy theories out there on what was happening behind the scenes or something with that. Because I agree with you. I think it was one of the more surprising firings. Usually, the punch is telegraphed long before it happens. And
there's no rumors about it. There's no like this guy's going to get fired. A lot of times you think, you hear that the coach is going to get fired. Like when Mike Babcock got fired, you heard for weeks that he could get fired.
No, that's right. For sure. And in the case going back to Detroit as well, I also think that Yzerman sort of understands that the guy that's coaching this team, Blashill is not going to take this team when the team is in contention. So you're going to bring in a coach because this is going to be one more year of this for sure. Yeah. So you're going to bring in a coach that's going to have to suffer through that. Or you're going to, when they're ready to turn the corner, is that when you bring the coach in?
Yeah, see, that's an excellent point. You're right. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. Like, for instance, is Gerard Gallant going to make this team into a playoff team now? Probably not, right? They're not a playoff team. So why bring in Gerard Gallant? Maybe he's going to hire Gerard Gallant and he's just waiting for a year to hire him. Maybe he said to him, listen, sit tight, you're getting paid. I think he's still getting paid by Vegas, probably is. So sit tight, wait around for a while. We'll get this team better, and then you come in and coach us. So. Well,
the problem with that is I don't see Gerard Gallant sitting around. Like he's not a type of guy that's going to want just to collect the money. He's going to want to be active. Anyway, there's a few more guys that I want to run by you here. Guys that I think probably are, on the bubble and have to think about their jobs. Maybe I'm wrong, but Calgary Flames interim coach Jeff Ward. I know you wanted him to go to Gallant right away. Right. What do you think his chances are? Does he have to win this first round series in order to keep his job?
Absolutely, yes. So they lose the first round series. I have a hard time believing that he's going to stay on. He's the guy that they're looking at as their coach now anyways. And no disrespect to him. I've heard great things about him, but I've just always got the impression that he's that really good assistant coach. He's not that head coach kind of guy. I could be totally wrong. I don't know the man at all, but that's just the perception I've always had of him. So I mean, to me, unless they'd have to win more than just one round. I think they'd have to go on a little bit of a run in the playoffs before they even consider keeping him. Kev, you there, bud?
Yep, I got you. So back here. I'm just I apologize. My internet here at the lake house just apparently isn't good, so I'll have to try to.
You got a virus in there.
Yeah, I got something.
Here's the question too. So Mike Babcock is out there, right? Yeah. Is he going to get hired?
I don't know. Like, I thought he was going to be like Mike Keenan. Every time Mike Keenan would get fired through the years, everyone would say, well, he's not going to get another job. And lo and behold, he would. He would get another job. And I thought Babcock would be, the new Mike Keenan, where everybody think that he'll never get another job, and he would. But, thus far, we really haven't heard his name linked to anything. But, we'll see how that goes. I got to believe that, he's a very organized coach. Say what you want about, Mike Babcock's style and how it grates on players, because all that is true. It does.
Yeah.
But, most of the guys who played for him will admit that, he is a well-prepared coach. He has a strategy on how to beat teams. He works hard at it. His people skills are lacking.
Right. So here's my take on him. Obviously, I don't like his style of coaching at all, right? I just think all that extra stuff, the grading on players, is just unnecessary stuff.
Right.
Does not work. The coaches that win, especially nowadays, are the Rod Brindamairs, the Quinns, those kind of guys. I just, like, to me, he's going to have to show that he's changed. And to be honest with you, I'm not that sold that he's that great of a coach. He may be this super organized guy. I think one of the best things he does, he's a master marketing guy. He always talking to the media about how good of a coach he is, all the things that he knows. If I look at his record, I see sometimes his teams aren't good at killing penalties. Well, to me, that's a coach not getting the most out of the guys he's got, right? Because killing penalties is teamwork. It's hard work. It's understanding the game when you're out there. And that's a lot of coaching, getting the right guys out there, showing them what you want. And so I'm not sold that he's that great of a coach, but listen, obviously a lot of people do think he's that great of a coach. Toronto, to give him the money they gave him in Toronto. So part of me just, okay, if you've got those good qualities, but you need to change. You need to adapt. The game has changed. You can't treat the players like that anymore. Can you be hard on them? Be hard on them, sure, yeah, but don't play all these mind games, the stuff he was doing. So
I don't know. Can you be hard on him anymore? I guess it depends on how you define hard.
So to me, it's making them accountable.
I think that's acceptable. But I think the days of, singling out players in front of their teammates and that kind of nonsense, I think those are all gone.
Well, but you're right. But again, Quinn here in New York, when he first came in, he said right off the bat, I can't remember his quote. It was fantastic. It was like, work ethic is not negotiable, I think was what he said. And he, right off the bat, if players weren't playing well, he would, veteran player or whoever it was, he would put them up in the press box for a game. But he then, so I don't know what he said to them privately, but at least publicly, then he would say, listen, this is a good hockey player. We're not getting the best out of him right now. He'll be fine. We're just doing this as a little to get him going. So to me, that's still, hockey players are proudful people, right? And they don't want to be sitting in the press box as a healthy scratch. So to me, that's a good way to be hard on a player. You're not doing what I want you to do. You're going to sit in the press box.
Yeah, like I said, I think it depends on your definition of hard. But I agree. I think that's holding players accountable. Because we see that in all work environments. If you're in an accounting firm and they don't think you're doing the job, you don't get the plum assignments or the assignment that you want. Or if you're a lawyer and you're at a firm, you don't get the cases that you want. So like that's just normal. But you in a regular environment, your boss is not allowed to scream at you. And
what did Babcock do with Marner? Wasn't there a case where he asked Marner?
Yeah, he asked him to fill in the rank, the players in terms of their defensive ability. Was that it? Yeah.
Right. And then he announced it to the team.
Correct.
So the guys at the bottom of that list obviously are looking at Marner like, oh, thanks a lot. Yeah.
No, that's reprehensible.
Yeah. What would he be thinking that the purpose of that would be? That to me is an egotistical thing. You're creating some scenario to make it look like you're this genius. I don't get that, but
yeah. Well, let's finish off this one little deal here. This next guy on my list, I'm bothered by this because I think he's a great hockey guy and I think he does a good job. But I wonder, is Dale Talon on the hot seat in Florida?
You'd have to think that his record of what he did in Chicago and the way he cared and stuff. But again, remember, he got fired before in Florida, and then they brought him back. Right. So kind of says what the owner's mindset is, right? That, maybe that his Talon's legacy from Chicago and everything really doesn't mean much to that owner. So, yeah, and when they signed Bobrovsky, that's a big deal and a big position on that team, and he hasn't panned out. Right now, that doesn't mean he won't play better, but he has not been the goaltender they anticipated him being. So, I think that really hurts them too, because I do like that team. They've got a lot of talented players, but it's not happening right now. So, I would have to agree that if they don't do much in the near future here, that he may be out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be wrong on that though, because I think he's a good hockey guy and a good man.
Yep.
The other guy is, I just don't even have a guess. Rick Bowness, who's the interim. I think he's done a decent job there, and I think Jim Nill is loyal to guys who work hard. And Boness has been a very popular assistant coach for many places, and very well liked and respected. So I'm thinking he's done a decent job to get them where they are. But if they don't win, I don't know.
Well, okay, so now you get the wheel spin a little bit, right? I mean, so Jim Nill was with Detroit for a long time. So two guys, Gerard Gallant and Mike Babcock was there. So, but I wouldn't see that. I know Jim Nill pretty well. You probably know him better than I do. I wouldn't see Jim Nill hiring Mike Babcock, right?
Wow.
I don't think that. I can see him hiring Gerard Gallant.
Me too.
Yeah. So is there somebody better out there than Rick Bowness? And I agree with you. Rick Bowness is one of the nicest men. I knew him from the Ottawa days when Brian Berard, one of my clients, was there. Great guy. And every time you see him, it's just like he's your buddy, right? It's like, you'd like to see him do well. And you know what? Listen, players respond to that better now. And Dallas was not playing well early in the year. They put it together now. Right. But when you watch them, it was just really, to me, it was just, they weren't engaged. They just didn't want to play. Now he's got them playing better. So,
the other factor is, does he want to do it? He's 65 years old.
Yeah. So what? 65? How old are you?
65, soon to be.
Yeah, so you're still, look at you. You do you're in 27 Hall of Fames. You do 700 podcasts every week. You're not rolling over.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's ready to quit either. But I'm just saying, you do have to factor that in. So
that's true.
So I don't know. I just don't know what they're thinking in Dallas, and I'm sure it won't be Jim's decision alone.
That owner's pretty actively involved.
Yeah, yes, he is active. You would hope it would be Jim's decision, but it works that way less than people think. They may not, owners may not, interfere directly. In some places they do, but they always sort of get their opinions known. So.
And I guess if you're spending $500 million on a franchise, I want a lot to say what's going on. I'm not paying that money and not get involved. Ken
Holland has told just a really great story years ago about after the expansion draft when Nashville came in, the Red Wings I think had lost Doug Brown, and Mike Ilitch, the owner of the Red Wings, apparently liked Doug Brown, and so he called Ken Holland in his office, and as Mike Ilitch always let his general managers do what they wanted, even though he made his opinions known. And he started talking about how hard this move was going to be on Doug Brown and having to uproot his family and what a great guy Doug Brown is. So at one point, Ken just raised his hand and he says, Mr. I, are you trying to tell me that you want me to reacquire Doug Brown? Because if that's what you want, just tell me that and I'll get it done. You don't have to, he says, you don't have to, give me any explanation or whatever. You always give me what I need. So if you want Doug Brown, I'm going back to get him. And
he brought him back too, right?
He did. He called David Poyle, and he explained to David that his owner wanted to get Doug Brown back, and that Mr. Ilitch had thought that the move was too hard on the family. He liked him as a human being and a player, and he'd like to have him back. And it wasn't like Doug Brown was going to make or break either team.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that hard. And so they negotiated the trade. They gave him some other players, and Doug Brown came back. But what I like about that story is just, Ken Holland recognizing and respecting ownership just to say, hey, Mr. I, it's your team. Yeah. Wait, this is what you want to do. And, Mr. Ilitch respecting Ken Holland, that he didn't want to just come in and say, hey, get me Doug Brown.
Yeah. It reminds me, we talk about Ken Holland, and it's kind of a sad story in one way. We obviously, a client of mine, Greg Johnson, we lost him a few months ago. But when he was in Detroit, and he was this promising young player, and like scoring goals. We see there's all this potential in him and everything like that. So we were negotiating a contract, and Kenny Holland and I think it was more because we became buddies. The contract negotiation, I think it went on for a year before we finally got it done. There was all these crazy bonus clauses, but it was just fun hanging out with Kenny Holland. We were having fun going back and forth and everything like that. But it was, I know I've said this so many times before. I have a ton of respect for Kenny Holland too. One of the biggest things with me is he's just such a good communicator. You hardly ever saw contract negotiations that had a problem publicly. I guess he had a problem with Anthony Seo recently, but everything, like he would always just come and talk to you and say, here's the situation, explain it to you. Wouldn't try to ram something down your throat. Guys wanted to play. They wanted to play in Detroit for a lot of reasons, but he was one of the reasons they wanted to. Like, I'll never forget Dallas Drake when he got bought out in St. Louis. He's at the end of his career. He's going to play one more year. And he said to me, he says, I want you to get me to Detroit and don't, he used the real word, but he says, don't F it up. You know, and actually, I think the offer was $500,000, and Dallas was all set to take it. I said, let me just go back and get a little bit more just to pay for my fee, so now it's like, come back. And I said that to Kenny. I said, can we just have 550, and then, that pays for my fee too. He got laughed. He said, okay, get 550. So,
yeah. Well, the one thing about Kenny Holland is he was deadly serious about his team and making it better and working hard, but he could do it in such a way that he didn't act like he was curing cancer.
Yes.
It was, he could still treat people with great respect. He could be friendly. And, I could ask Ken Holland a difficult question, and, we could still see each other the next time. It wasn't that big a deal.
You put it very good way. That's true. Like, he didn't feel like he was being the general manager of a hockey team. He wasn't solving world peace or curing cancer.
Right. Yeah. No, that's right. He knew he had everything in perspective. So anyway, we've run out of time as usual. Thanks for listening to the Laidlaw and Allen podcast. I'm Alan. He's Laidlaw. We'll be back next week.
See you guys.